Well, XRP to the moon. Let's talk about it. But first, shout out to the person that got the correct answer for where I am. It's I am in, I'm in Dorset. Okay, so where I am exactly, well, you can call it Dorset or you can call it Devon. I'm actually bang on the border such that the farm that is opposite where I am at the moment is actually in Devon, and the farm that I am on a farm that is in Dorset. So the road that goes right between us is the border between Dorset and Devon. And it's an incredible place. I spent most of the day though in Charmouth, which is a bit of a drive from here, which is a nice drive through the beautiful countryside. It's absolutely stunning, highly recommended. It's on the Jurassic coast of England. And I swear to you, it's one of the most beautiful places that I've loved to go in the UK. It's been almost 10 years since I've been to the Jurassic coast. There are other places in the UK, of course, that are much more beautiful, but they're not in England per se. They're in Scotland or Wales, whatever. The two places that I rank maybe as good or maybe better would be Inverness. Inverness is probably the most beautiful place I've been to in the UK. Absolutely gorgeous, especially if you go in autumn. It's just insane. I've been to Penny-Fan. Absolutely gorgeous. So those are some of the places. Obviously there's Lake District, Peak District, yada yada yada, depending on who you are and the kind of things that you like. I love nature, so I like the countryside. So I like to get out the city now and again and just immerse myself in peace and quiet and tranquility. Anywho, XRP doing pretty well compared to the others. If you compare XRP to the top 10 tokens, you will see that we've done pretty well. We've recovered the best of any of the top 10 tokens in the last week, with XRP doing close to 12% in the last week in terms of recovery. The closest one, of course, is Bitcoin, which did something like a 5%, and of course Solana, which also did a 5%. Ethereum, not so much. BNB, not so much. In fact, BNB didn't do very well at all, probably because of that massive pump that happened before everything went dumping anyway. So shout out to XRP. It looks like we're starting to wake up from the slumber. Like I said before, XRP's recovery is going to be much better, much more intense than any of the other tokens, at least in the top 10, maybe even in the top 100, just because of the fundamentals and the things that are about to happen. We've seen all the bits of news with the acquisitions of the different companies by Ripple. Strategic ones, of course, especially the custody-based ones and the Ripple Prime Hidden Road renaming thing. So that is going to be a major avenue through which the influx of money is going to come to the XRP ledger. And that raises the whole sort of XRP ledger infrastructure to institutional level. And the technology is ready, obviously, all of the upgrades that they released on the ledger, making it more sort of institutional facing, that has created an environment where the underlying technology is ready and fit for purpose. Now we have the business layer doing its thing. The custody thing is going to be happening globally. There's going to be institutions around the world custodying their XRP, custodying other assets with Metaco and with Ripple custody. Obviously, we have the brokerage now that's going to be selling these assets and products directly to, the BlackRocks of the world, 300 plus or so when it comes to the institutions that Ripple is working with. And this is, of course, besides the stuff that we've been banging on about this whole time, tokenization of real world assets, and of course the influx that's going to be coming in from the ETFs. So we are ready to go. Everything, all the stars are aligned. It's takeoff time. And right now, if you look at the Fear and Greed Index, we're now at 36, which is now moving towards neutral. And what I find with that is the minute we enter neutral, chances are we're just going to shoot to greed because emotions are so easy to change. We're one good pump away from everyone suddenly feeling good about themselves again and starting to FOMO into crypto. And Bitcoin, as you can see, right now is 113,500 in terms of dollar price. We're one good news away from heading to the 20s again and it being in price discovery, as we saw last month, and a couple of weeks ago, it did something similar before the big dump because of the so-called Trump tariffs. Now, what are the harbingers of a good Bitcoin price or good Bitcoin pump? Of course, that's to come. We have India, which is now recognizing Bitcoin. Not India, the country. There's a high court in India that has recognized Bitcoin as property. Now, if you remember, I said in a previous video that India, in terms of Bitcoin and generally crypto adoption, is number one in terms of retail and any other category you check. India is the number one crypto country, believe it or not, by population. Now it's being recognized as property by a high court, and a high court recognizing Bitcoin as property means that the government is pretty much going to be in line with that going forward. So the fears of, the government banning Bitcoin that we keep getting in the news as a major bit of FUD, that's going to die down, and we're going to get a lot more FOMO in terms of actual buying of Bitcoin from countries like India. And that's going to have a big effect on the price of Bitcoin. Another huge piece of news is that, maybe not surprisingly enough, if you know JPMorgan very well, especially if you understand the way Jamie Dimon acts, is that JPMorgan is now accepting Bitcoin as collateral. So JPMorgan is now allowing Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral in this new institution lending program. So Bitcoin, as you know, Jamie Dimon has always said, oh, it's a scam, blah, 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 blah. He said that for many years. Oh, please don't buy it. Oh, the government should ban it. And then he turned around to actually saying, okay, you know what? You can buy it as a store of value. That's all it does. We're holding it as treasuries. And then he went from that to, some of the investors, some of the higher level investors with more money are being offered Bitcoin-esque services and products, blah, blah, blah. Now he's done a complete 180 where he's now accepting not just Bitcoin, but also Ethereum as collateral for loans. I mean, when money is involved, man, no matter how big and negative the bank is, they're going to turn around and do what makes them the most money. And of course, for them to be able to offer this program now, you know that they've been working on it for time. Okay, so this is nothing new. It's something that they've been doing in the background. They say this, hey, look at here. And they're doing this. Yeah, so that's classic of any bank. And JPMorgan is particularly known for that, especially their CEO, Jamie Dimon. So no big news in terms of that's much expected, but it's absolutely huge in that it offers another level of legitimacy of Bitcoin. And it also signifies where all the banks are now. Because if JP Morgan is doing something, you best believe all the other banks are going to do it too, or are already in the process of doing it, which means Ethereum and Bitcoin, and at some point probably XRP, will be accepted by banks as collateral for loans and other lending programs, mortgages, probably, etc., etc. Now, another bit of news, not as big as the bank ones in terms of the effect it's going to have, is Rumble and Tether. They've teamed up to launch a Bitcoin tipping feature. So Rumble is kind of touted as a free speech platform, alternative to something like YouTube, where you can place more controversial things on there. So obviously, because of the nature of the controversial stuff that goes on Rumble, some of the monetization methods that you have there are limited. Some of the companies and brands might not want to support the type of speech that's given on that platform. But this enables consumers to tip their favorite content creators. It offers a new monetization vehicle for content creators, possibly of more controversial stuff. But even if their stuff is not controversial, you can have vlogs and all sort of other, XRP video people. I actually get on Rumble, actually. I've never had a Rumble account. I've had Library and all the other ones, but I've just never been on Rumble because, I don't really say anything controversial. So I've always just used YouTube. My content doesn't ever get banned or shadow banned, I don't think, with the exception of during the COVID-19 times when I used to say a few things about COVID that used to get shadow banned, I think. But apart from that, my stuff is pretty vanilla. No one's going to ban me from, for saying any of the stuff I say. I don't say much controversial stuff. But some people do, dabble in politics, religion, etc., which are more sort of spicy subjects. And those guys usually get banned or cancelled or what have you. So Rumble is sort of a home for those. Having said that, this isn't actually new. is something that the basic attention token BAT from the Brave browser search engine is something that they've done before. You can still do it. The basic attention token was designed for that, to tip people, content creators online, also to reward you as a content consumer for using their Brave browser. Even up till now, I still earn tokens just for using the Brave browser. Every month or so, I just download, I transfer my coins into my wallet from my Brave wallet. It's not much. It's not as much as it used to be, but it's still like, $3 here, $4 here, just for using a browser. It's actually quite interesting. And I've never sold any of it before, so it's just accumulated. I've got thousands of BAT tokens at the moment that are just sitting in my wallet. And it's just for me using the internet. And I can use those BAT tokens to also go and tip other content creators, which I have done in the past. There's also that platform that I always talk about, Hive, which was built specifically to do things like this, content creation, blogging, etc., with an inbuilt cryptocurrency called Hive that you can use to tip people and, actually tip them for free, the way it's set up, because your likes and downvotes or whatever just joins an algorithm. And at the end of the week, the money gets distributed according to the algorithm of who got liked, disliked, yada, yada, yada. So the concept itself isn't new, but the fact that, Tether is getting involved in something like this kind of lends a little bit more credence to it. So shout out to Tether, shout out to Rumble, more utility for Bitcoin. That's always a good thing. So when Bitcoin rises, a rising tide lifts all boats. And boy, am I even more aware of that, having been on the coast now for a couple of days, seeing the tide go in and out, really heavy tides over here, big waves. Awesome coast. Again, Jurassic Coast, highly recommended. So I did say I was going to provide some kind of bonus to the first person that got where I was, even though you didn't quite get the particular place I'm at. I'm at Charmouth, as I said before. Because you mentioned Dorset, you're kind of half right. So I'm going to give you half the reward, if you know what I mean. So if you just drop your wallet address, not your seed phrase, your wallet address, your public address that I can send USDT to. So let me know if you want either USDT or XRP, one of the two. Drop your Binance address or your BSC address, most preferably. No Ethereum addresses, please, because the gas fees are way too high. So the person, of course, is Knowledge Seeker 5499. Knowledge Seeker 5499. I've actually replied to your message. You said, might be in Dorset, smiley face. And I said, boom, well done. Ha ha ha. Only just some blah, 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 blah. Anyway, not financial advice. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.